Okay, we're going to go through the day 11 packet, and we're just going to talk about some things in here, because there is some new information in here. We have not done volume yet this year, so we're going to jump to this page that says polygons at the top. I feel pretty confident that you're going to do okay with the reading, but we will go back and talk about that for a little bit in a different video. So in this video, I think we're just going to talk about math, because that's the thing that's going to be the most new to you, that you might need the most help with. So at the top, our essential question is, how can you identify and classify polygons? So when I jump to right here, it's going to tell me exactly what a polygon is, and then we can talk about unlock the problem in just a second. But I want us to understand what a polygon is before we look at this picture. So a polygon is a closed plane figure that's formed by 3 or more line segments that meet at points called vertices. And it's named by the number of sides and angles that it has. So that's really important. You can underline it, you can highlight it, you can circle it, you can box it in, whatever's going to stick out to you the most. I'm going to mark it is named by the number of sides and angles it has. That is super important, because this whole lesson is going to be naming polygons. So then we can look back at this picture and back at our description up here. So it says the Castel del Monte somewhere in Italy was built more than 750 years ago. The fortress has one central building with 8 surrounding towers. Which polygon do you see repeated in the structure? How many sides, angles, and vertices does this polygon have? Well, if we wanted to know what type of polygon this was, we would have to count our line segments, count the sides that make it up. So I'm going to look right here, and I'm going to count all of my line segments. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if there are 8 sides, I can see down here that that's called an octagon, because that prefix oct means 8. So then when I look back up here, see all the octagons that are in this whole structure? Okay. So one thing that you can notice about the number of sides, angles, and vertices with polygons is that they're always going to be the same. So when we look at this triangle right here, our sides are the line segments that make it up. So we have 3 on a triangle. Our angles are right here. So that's where our line segments meet. And our vertices are the points formed by those line segments. Okay? So one thing that you should notice right away is that the triangle not only has 3 sides, but it also has 3 angles, and it has 3 vertices. Okay? So let's see if the same is true of our quadrilateral. So quad, that prefix quad means 4. So that means that this is going to have 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to have 4 vertices. And vertices are like where they meet, where we make sort of a point. And it's going to have 4 angles. So sides, angles, and vertices on a polygon are always going to be equal numbers. So when I look at this pentagon, tell me how many sides a pentagon has. Well, we can count them, or we can see here that it has 5. We could count our angles, and we could count our vertices, But because we know that this is a regular polygon, we know that it's going to have 5 angles and 5 vertices. So a hexagon, we can count and see that it has 6 sides, angles, and vertices. A heptagon has 7 sides, angles, and vertices. Octagon, and then go ahead and fill in nonagon and decagon. So these are not the only ways that these shapes can look. This pentagon might look a little bit strange to you because there's a building in Washington, D.C. called the Pentagon, and this might be the shape that you're most used to seeing with a pentagon. Sort of looks like a baseball plate. But as long as a polygon has a certain number of sides, then these are the names for it. Okay, so just because it looks different doesn't mean that it has a different name. Alright, so the octagon is repeated in the polygon because it has 8 sides, 8 angles, and 8 vertices. This page is going to be really helpful on the work that you're getting ready to do on your own. We're going to go through the next couple of pages together, and then you'll have some work that you're going to do by yourself. Alright, a regular polygon. This is going to have some important information, and the reason that I picked these lessons for you is because it has a lot of teaching that goes with it, since I can't be with you to teach you right now in person, and I can't be with you to help you in person. That's why all of this is going to be so important for you to go back and look at to help figure some things out. Okay, so a regular polygon is when line segments have the same length or when angles have the same measure, and that means that they are congruent. And in a regular polygon, all sides are congruent and all angles are congruent. So I want you to mark that word congruent and regular polygon. So those are going to be important, and I bet that in our work ahead, we're going to have to know what congruent means and what regular polygons are. So right here, this is going to tell us the difference between a regular polygon and not a regular polygon. So with a regular polygon, all sides are congruent, which means that they are the same length. So we can see that all of these are 4 centimeters, which makes them congruent. All of the angles are congruent. All of these measure 108 degrees. So that means that they're all exactly the same size. Okay? And when we have not a regular polygon, that means that not all of the sides are congruent and not all of the angles are congruent. But still, both of these are polygons, and both of them can be called a pentagon because they each have 5 sides. So this is a pentagon, and this is a pentagon. This one's regular, this one's not regular. And you, like these markings right here, let's talk real quick about what those mean, because you might have never seen those before. So these 2 lines, or actually let's go to this one, this line and this line. That means that this side is congruent to this side. That's what this line right here means. And then when we go up here, and we have 2 lines here and 2 lines here, that means that those 2 sides are congruent to each other. Since this one doesn't have a line at all to mark it in any way, it's not congruent to any of the other line segments on this polygon. And then the same is true for our angle markers. That angle is congruent to that angle. This angle is congruent to this angle. Okay? So some of them are congruent, but for it to be a regular polygon, all angles and all sides have to be congruent. Okay? All right. So down here this says label the Venn diagram to classify the polygons in each group, then draw a polygon that belongs only to each group. Okay? So we want to think about how we could name what's in this circle. So when I look at this, I see that I have some sides and angles that are congruent. I notice that these are both quadrilaterals, and this is a quadrilateral, so maybe I could say that all of these are quadrilaterals, but no, because here we have a triangle. So what do we notice that's the same about all of these? I'm going to go over here and look at this circle. So the first thing I notice about this is that all of the sides on this one are congruent. All of my sides on this one are congruent, but my angles are not. This angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle, but they're not all congruent in the figure. Okay. So now that I've noticed that about these angles, that makes me want to go back and look over here at angles and sides. So sides are congruent here, but not angles. Oh, my angles are congruent here, but not all my sides. Okay, so we're going to say that this has congruent angles, and this one has congruent sides. So where our Venn diagram overlaps, that means that it has to fit both of these descriptions. So that means that all of these angles and sides of these two figures are congruent. So you can go in and draw the polygon, draw your own polygon that belongs to each group. And then down here we're going to say that anything up here in this part, in the overlapping part, are regular polygons. Because remember, we read that a regular polygon, all sides are congruent and all angles are congruent. And that's true of these, so they are regular polygons. Okay. So down here, it says name the polygon, then use the markings in the figure to tell whether it's a regular polygon or not a regular polygon. Alright, so if we name the polygon, remember, we do that by the number of sides that it has. So when I count this, I count 1, 2, 3 sides, and I think that we all know that, but if you don't, you can flip back to this page, and a 3-sided polygon is called a triangle. So we're going to write triangle on this line. And it says, are all the sides and all the angles congruent? Well, that's what these lines mean. Since one line is on every side, that means that they're all the same length. And there's one mark on each angle, so that means all of those angles are the same measure. So, yes, all of the sides and all of the angles are congruent. So, is it a regular polygon? Well, I'm going to look back up here at a regular polygon. All sides are congruent and all angles are congruent. And we said that that's true, so yes, it's a regular polygon. Okay. So let's do a little bit more together, and then I'm going to let you do some work on your own. Alright, I think we're going to do just these problems together, and then you can do the rest of it on your own. If you have questions about any of this, you can post comments here to ask me questions. You can text me, you can email me, you can call me, all of that. And I'm not going to put all of that information here on YouTube, but I will put it on Class Dojo and through text. Okay? So remember, we name each polygon by the number of sides it has. So the first thing I have to do is count my sides, and then I'm going to decide if it's a regular polygon or not a regular polygon. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. And if we don't remember what that is, we can flip back to see that a 6-sided polygon is a hexagon. So I'm going to write hexagon on that line. And then I want to see, is it regular or not regular? So I remember reading that regular polygons, all of the angles were congruent and all of the sides were congruent. So that means that I should have only one hash mark on all of these, and I should have only one mark on all of my angles, because that's how I know what's the same size as the others. So since all of these match, then I'm going to say that it is a regular polygon. So I'm going to put a semicolon to separate those, and we're going to say that it is regular. Okay, number 3, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Now, I know that most of you would say that this is a rectangle, and that's correct. It is a rectangle, but the name of the polygon is really important because it's not just a rectangle, it can also be called a quadrilateral. So I notice that all of my angles are the same, which means that it could be regular, so it really is going to depend on the sides. But what this means is that this side is congruent to this side, which means that they're the same length and same shape. And this side is congruent to this side, which means that they're also the same length and shape. But all 4 sides are not congruent, so that means that it is not regular. Alright, and then when we look at this last one, we're going to count the sides, and I see 8 sides, and if I don't know what that's called, you can look back. An 8-sided polygon is an octagon. And all of our angles and sides are the same length, so we're going to say that it is regular. Alright, boys and girls, I'm going to leave you to do the rest of this math on your own. So you've got the bottom of this page, the back of this page, and then you've got another front and back. Alright, so before I sign off, let's go over what you're expected to do here. This is a little bit different than what you had before. This is the last page of each NTI packet. So what we want you doing, every single day you should be reading at least 20 minutes. You can read anything. And remember, we've got all those websites that you can access. Epic, Tumble Books. If you're not able to get books right now, there is so much free stuff out there right now. It's ridiculous. So if you need help getting anything to read, please let me know, and I'll put some more information up on Dojo or somewhere about that. So you're going to put the book title, and it doesn't have to be a book. If you read the newspaper, if you read some kind of article, if you read a Scholastic News or something like that, put that up here. Tell how long you read. Is it fiction or nonfiction? So is it fake or is it based on something real? Okay. So if you're reading fiction, pick the fiction prompt. If you're reading nonfiction, pick the nonfiction prompt. Okay. This is like just as basic and simple as it can get. So your fiction prompt, paraphrase or summarize what you read. So you've got space down here. It should take at least this much space. If you need to write more on the back or on another piece of paper, you can. And then nonfiction, write 5 facts that you learned from what you read, and write 1 opinion about what you read. So tell me 5 things that you read, and then give me your thought or your own opinion about what you read. Okay? And then over here, this has a little bit more information about what summary and paraphrase means. So that's there if you need that. All right. Let's flip back to the front real quick. I told you we would go over this. Okay. This lesson is all about text features. So this whole page is going to be a lot like the math that you had. So this is where we taught everything. And if I need help on something, I'm going to go back to this page. That's kind of how this page is for reading. Okay? So this is going to tell me all about text features. And remember, text features are in non-fiction text. We would see them a lot in our History Alive textbook. And if you were here right now, that's the book that we would look at to talk about this. So the bold words are going to give us important information that we're going to need to know, so that when we have questions to answer about those, we need to look back here. Okay? You've got one short coached example, and the hint down at the bottom is sort of the coaching that goes with that, and why. I'm sorry. That's going to give you information that goes with that. Okay. So then the next page, the letter to the editor. Use this reading guide out to the side. It's got some good questions that you should be thinking about as you're reading this, because remember, the way that we get to be better readers is showing our thinking about what we're reading. And then on the back page, you're going to have some questions about that passage, and that's pretty much it. That's what you're expected to do on this day in TI 11. I'll do the next video real soon that's going to go through the first social studies lesson, and then you're going to be pretty much done for the day. So finish your work hard, don't stop until you're proud. I love you, and I will see you soon.